Howdy, and welcome back to Celebrating Vintage Model Kits. Continuing Hawker Typhoon week, we've got an Airfix kit from 1963, also in 1/72nd scale. It's kit number 10-39. The original tooling of this was from 1959. This particular boxing is from the Airfix Corporation of America. So this is a little bit of a unique kit. Airfix Corporation of America appear to only be importing kits into the U.S. For 1 year, and they were, distinct, different boxings compared to the other boxings that Airfix was doing at the time. In fact, this kit didn't receive a boxing until much later, as it was bagged and blister packed before that. So, to continue with a little bit more of the history of the Hawker Typhoon. The basic design of the Typhoon was a combination of traditional Hawker construction and some more modern construction. The Hurricane, still was using a lot of the traditional Hawker construction with fabric-covered rear half of the fuselage. In fact, fabric-covered wings on some of the early production aircraft. But the Typhoon went to full metal wings, full metal fuselage. The front half of the fuselage still retains some of the Hawker traditional tube-based construction, combination of both steel and Duralume tubes, with sheepskin added to create the outside shape. The rear half of the fuselage after the cockpit was a semi-monocoque construction. It was flush riveted, and the front half, those panels that were put on there were very large and removable, which made access to the engine and various different accessories in the front half of the fuselage very easy. The wing was a 41 foot 7 inch wing. It was a very thick wing. It had an anhedral in the center section, the half of the wing that was closer to the fuselage, of about 1 degree, and it had dihedral in the outer part of 5.5 degrees. So a very, very slight inverted gull wing, which is kind of why the Typhoon, with the radiator hanging out in the nose, when you look at it from the front, you can kind of see that inverted gull look. Kind of looks like the Typhoon's kind of, real heavy looking, because of that anhedral in the middle there and the thickness of the wing. The wing was, made thick for a reason, to be able to incorporate, cannon armament. It was also able to incorporate fuel tanks as well. Most of your fighter aircraft at the time, the fuel tanks were in the fuselage, but the Typhoon was able to have fuel tanks in the wing. In fact, there were 2 fuel cells in each wing, a 40-gallon and a 37-gallon one. The landing gear track kind of followed along with the Hurricane, but was even wider. It had a 13-foot 6 3/4 inch landing gear track, which made for a real stable aircraft, which came in handy when the Typhoons ended up going to France right after the D-Day landing and operating off of improvised strips. Spitfires, certainly would have had a hard time flying off of those. But the Typhoon, was really rugged, real strong, very strong wings, strong undercarriage, was able to handle those rough fields. So the wing ended up being, the downfall of the Typhoon. It was really thick, and so it kept it from getting really higher speeds than anything above about 410 miles an hour. The drag that was induced, by the thickness of the wing just would not let it go much faster than that. Very, very high increase in drag. When the aircraft was diving, once you got into speeds about 500 miles an hour on a dive, severe buffeting started happening from that, creating some compressibility, which then caused severe trim changes. and we'll get into some of the problems that ended up happening because of that. So Sydney Cam recognized that this wasn't working out. The aircraft was struggling at high altitude, was not really going to be able to go much faster than it was, and so they designed a much thinner wing and used a laminar flow design to it. Made it elliptical shape because everybody liked the Spitfire and they had an elliptical wing, so he incorporated an elliptical design to it, basically just to appease people who were Spitfire fanatics. And that was going to be the Typhoon 2, but because it was a significant enough change, they also had to stretch the fuselage out in order to accommodate fuel tanks, since they lost the tankage area in the wings since the wing were thin. They decided that it should get its own designation, so that's what ended up becoming the Tempest. So, a little more history on the Typhoon. Now let's look at this particular kit here. So, as I mentioned, this is an Airfix kit for Airfix USA with a unique box art design. Really dramatic. You got a Typhoon flying along here, getting chased by what looks like an FW-190, shooting it all up, blowing parts of its tail off. You got cannon holes in the wing, shells flying past, and then here comes another Typhoon to attack that FW-190, and it's hit that one, and he's on fire. Just action going on all over the place. Now, what is kind of funny on this is the colorations are definitely way off from what Typhoons look like. The prototypes, I think, may have still been in the brown and in green, with this kind of duck egg blue underneath. By the time Typhoons were hitting in squadron service, and pretty much almost the entire time they were serving, they were in the gray and the gray green, with the lighter gray underside. There was never yellow fuselage bands and yellow spinners. Yeah, sometimes there'd be some yellow spinners for squadron stuff. But what they are showing here is the underwing striping that was needed. A lot of Typhoons were getting shot down because they were being confused for FW-190s. And so they devised different types of markings to try to differentiate Typhoons from the Focke-Wulfs, and ultimately trying different things, they settled on these underwing stripes. I don't know where they came up with these, because these appear to be yellow with black with the red or orange stripe in the middle. What they really were was a 12-inch black, a 24-inch white, 12-inch black, and then back and forth. So they were black and white stripes. Not too different from D-Day striping, although they do have the black bands on the outside. And they are different size stripes. D-Day stripes, I think, were 18-inch stripes. These are, as I mentioned, 12 and then 24 for the white. There were no fuselage stripings. These were just wing stripings. There were some other markings, that were utilized to differentiate Typhoons from FW-190s. That we'll cover that in some future videos. But this is definitely a very striking image. You got a purple sky going on. That's just got a lot of pow to it. Excitement factor for sure. And so on the side here, we've got mentioning that it's constant scale, 72 scale, made and lithoed in the USA. Adds for a Hurricane and a MiG-15. On the other side, we've got a listing of a number of other kits that were available. Mentioning again the constant scale, 60 models available. Not just aircraft, but also tanks and a couple of ships. On the end, we've got a repetition of the top box art, Airfix 72, and then the code of the 10-39. 39 was the suggested retail price of 39 cents for this kit when it came out. And same thing on the other side. Nothing on the bottom of the box. This is back when they were still being taped, and you can still see the remnants of the tape when this was originally made. So let's take a look on the inside here. Let's see what we got. So first up, we got a set of instruction sheets. So this gives some more mention about the constant scale of 172 and some information about the Typhoon itself, suggested paint schemes. These paint schemes are a lot more accurate than what the box art is showing. And then your step instructions. So it's calling out the parts by number on here, since the parts I don't think have numbers on them. That matches up with the directions on there. And then across here, you've got the address for Airfix in America and Pennsylvania. Flip it over, we've got landing gear assembly, more directions, and then final assembly with bombs, cannon, pilot, cockpit. And as far as decal placement goes, it's telling you to look for the decals on the top of the box, but the top of the box is not what the decals are in this kit. So I guess they kind of left it up to your imagination to figure this one out. So next we got the decals. These are in surprising good shape. Not the greatest decals in the world, very limited, but they're in pretty good shape. Something that seems to be a problem with a lot of these decals is the red centers on the roundels are just always off. Serial numbers are a little blurred, but these have not yellowed too bad. These would probably still be usable. So this is a particular aircraft, JR-128, with the squadron coding of HFL, and that's an actual real aircraft. It's actually a somewhat notorious aircraft. I don't say notorious, but it was heavily photographed. It was used to take a lot of publicity shots. Pictures that were going to be used for publication and used for recognition manuals. So there are quite a number of photographs of this aircraft. And interesting in the painting directions, it doesn't talk anything about putting on striping. Where is it? Oh, here we go. Anything about the stripes on the underside of the fuselage or under the wings on here. So for some reason, this aircraft in the photographs does not have any underwing striping. So there was a time period, a very, very short time period, where there weren't markings on the underside of the wings, but so maybe those photographs were taken in that very short period of time. But it is unusual seeing in those photos no underwing stripes and no D-Day markings at all. So we'll show you those photographs here so you can see the original that this kit's based off of. All right, welcome back. So now we're going to take a look at the kit itself. We've got some fuselage halves. Oh, microphone fell over here. And we've got some fairly fine rivet detail, surprising, especially for the era of the original kit. And then the front panels are represented with indentations here, which would be like those, I think they're called DZU fittings, that you twist to release the special tool. Pretty nice representation of the exhaust. Typhoon's had a couple of different types of exhausts, and this is one that has the fairing around it. So pretty nice. The tail's got representation of some fabric covering, a little bit thick on the trailing edge. There is no representation of the fish plates that were added later on. But what is nice about this one compared to what we saw in the frog kit before is that it does have something on the inside of the radiator scoop here. Very stylized, but at least there's something there. The rear is still closed, but at least there's something filling that spot. Fit's not the best. Looks like you're probably going to need to do some filling in here or some trimming inside. Same thing with underneath here. Fit's a little off. It's going to need some cleanup work on it. You have a slot for the stand, but not too bad. Yeah, not too heavy compared to what Airfix was doing really in the late 50s. So that's our fuselage. Let's take a look at wings. Get some matching pieces here. So same thing on here. We've got some raised panel lines, some fairly fine rivet detail, even though this should all be flush riveted. You get a representation of the cannon drum bulge. It's a bit oversized, but at least there's something there as compared to the previous frog kit. Had nothing. You have lines representing the landing light, some lines representing the navigation lights, and you do have separate aileron slots. You do have an opening for the landing gear, which the frog kit didn't have, and you do have some molded on bomb racks. No ejection ports or representation of the ejection ports, but not too bad. You can see how thick the wing is. They did a good job of that. So we've got those are your wings. Get those out of the way. And we got one sprue for all the small parts. You got your wheels. You got your gear doors. Got your pilot's seat there. Cannon barrels, tail wheel. Your gear doors are pretty darn thick. Not much there to them. Wheels are pretty generic. Got a real faint generic tread lines. A lot of these parts have fallen off, so we'll look at those. Got a propeller, the hub and the blades are all molded together. It's a 3-blader. Got some seam lines and stuff there that you have to clean up. Not too bad. We've got our tail planes, similar to what you saw on the wings. We got here a pilot. He's pretty blobby looking. Does have kind of, it looks like he's got a scarf hanging down in the front. That's kind of different. But he certainly ain't flying the plane. His hands are down by his side. Then we got the main gear and doors. Again, really super thick. And the gear itself is just represented by, pole. Not much to that. And we've got our separate ailerons. Thick trailing edges on those. And then we've got some bomb halves. And these are looking a little small. Typhoon was typically carrying 500-pounders or 1,000-pounders, depending on how far they were going to go. These are looking really small, so these might be like trying to represent 250s. Maybe even smaller. They're not much to them. Here's one of the cannon barrels. And then we got an Airfix stand. And there's the vertical part. And somehow this kit has ended up with 3 canopies. I guess so you can keep trying on making it look good. This is about as bad of a canopy as you can get. Real thick. Shape is like not even close to a Typhoon canopy, and there is 0 representation of any kind of framing on this at all. So you get 1, 2, 3 canopies. So that's it. Not a whole lot to this kit. Typical of your 50s, 60s, 72nd scale kits. There's just not a lot to them. Just kind of getting a representation of the airplane. But this kit was a very popular kit with Airfix. They issued this, quite frequently. As I mentioned, the first issue of it was in 1959. There was a 1963 bagged one as well. It had some actual artwork. The 59 one was just basically line drawing of the aircraft on the bag tab thing. But the 63 one actually got some actual artwork on it. In 73, they came out with a blister pack, which I actually have. Unfortunately, the top's been cut off of it, but this is what the blister pack looked like. It hasn't been opened yet. Got it for $1. But that kind of lets you see what it would look like brand new that way. Same decals as before. And instructions, the top part of the blister pack would have the drawings showing you how to put it together. And of course, then there would be the artwork on it. But that's what a blister pack looks like. Then they came out with, Airfix came out with a box version in 76. Some new artwork again in 77. In 79, the box art got revised. That's when the era of kind of taken away this violence and action and flames and death and destruction. So the box art itself got touched up a lot. And they took away the bombs, they took away the burning tanks, made a tranquil background that the Typhoon was flying through. But that didn't last very long, because then they also started getting the truth in advertising boxing, which was using photographs of the models. So that's what was being used in the 80s. The exception to that was Airfix Lodella out of Mexico. They still used the artwork from the 70s. Once you got into the 90s, they started sliding back into using box art again. Heller, became involved with Airfix. In fact, became owners at one point. And they had an issue of this kit. And then they just started cranking out various different issuings of this kit through the 90s, 93, 94, 95, 96. 98 all the way into the 2000s, 05, 08, 09. Heller did another one in 05. And finally, Airfix got around to coming out with a new mold in 2013, which is, completely different, aircraft or kit. I have not seen one in person. I've seen some videos on it, and it looks pretty nice. So that's about it for this one. Again, as always, if you've built one of these, tell us about it in the comments section. If you got some pictures of ones that you've built, send it in for our next viewer build video. The email address is in the channel description. Other than that, next up is going to be another Typhoon. I think we're going to be looking at a monogram. Yeah, the monogram 48 scale, I think, is what's coming next. So, hope you enjoy Typhoon Week, and there's more coming. Thanks for watching. Have yourself a great day.